Hey everybody, it's Ken Plume, your friendly neighborhood producer. Just wanted to let you know that there's going to be some spoilers for all of the series that are being discussed in this episode ahead. So if you haven't seen all of the Marvel series on Disney Plus to this point and are worried about spoilers, this is your warning. There are going to be spoilers during this episode. So just wanted to let you know before you heard it. There you go. I've done my due diligence. Now, on with the episode.
Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all. Best Marvel Disney Plus series.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
I'm so excited for this. I'm so excited, but also, can I tell you, as of this recording, Hawkeye episode 3 is out, which I watched during my lunch break with my wife, also on her lunch break. And her lunch break ended with 6 minutes to go in the episode. So I haven't watched the last 6 minutes. We're not going to spoil.
Wow. That is very nice of you that you weren't like, can I just watch these last 6 minutes? Like that's not, I mean, to be fair, that is usually a very important 6 minutes on any show, but I don't know how you're holding off.
I didn't say anything because I was busy turning into dust like Thanos had snapped his fingers and just blowing around the living room. But we are joined today by a special guest, the man behind Minority Corner, James Arthur, is back.
It is so good to have you back. I've been excited, not just for this topic, but specifically to have you back on the show this week. You are a ray of sunshine, my friend.
Oh, this is, like I said it before, you two are some of my favorite folks in the podcasting industry, and we just get to nerd out. I love doing this show. I love it so much. You put out the Marvel signal, and I came fresh off the red carpet of Marvel Studios' Eternals.
I know, that's so cool. How much fun was that?
Fun? I don't know. It's all a blur. It's a lot of work. And so it's live streaming, live television. You've got someone in your ear telling you to get rid of Angelina Jolie. She's in the middle of talking. There's a lot of things happening. There's someone holding up a sign telling you who's coming up next. Fans are yelling. It is fun, but it's sort of like an adrenaline junkie type fun sort of situation. It's bananas. It's not for the faint of heart.
And it's work. You're there working.
This isn't a party. The party happens afterwards. And you just sort of like, pass out. But super excited to be here talking about Marvel things.
Oh, well, it's great to have you back. And we are talking today about the first 4 series released on Disney Plus. The beginning, I guess, is it the beginning of the phase? Did phase 4 begin with the television shows?
It did, but not intentionally. It's just the way things happened with the Pandemia Lovato just sort of switched.
I like that.
I don't like to give it its government name. It's too triggering. So when the Pandemia Anderson hit, it just ruined all kinds of the things of like the order of things. So really things kicked off with WandaVision. WandaVision was technically the first thing of phase 4.
Yeah. So much has happened over the course. We're discussing 4 series, those being WandaVision, Falcon/Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
So we're not including Hawkeye. By the way, I did watch all of Hawkeye in preparation. And so I will not spoil the last 6 minutes.
I've got to say right now, based on just the first 2.95 episodes that I've seen, I might pick Hawkeye to be the best one of all of them.
Wow.
I think with one exception that the series have gotten better and more complex as they go, but they're also all great on their own because you get to deep dive into character. You can't have a movie for every single person. So this is a great way to explore everything, all of these characters and their lives and a lot of rich comic book history in actually a longer format.
Sure. Well, I think that's the best. That's what they're doing with all of these is, you take starting at the very beginning, like you and I can sit and say we had our Marvel character competition and we talked about what a great character Wanda Maximoff is, but she really has not gotten a chance to like, wow, she's really been through a lot. I wonder what that's actually like. And what they've done with this, they've created all of these characters that we love so much. How great is it to get to spend 6 to 9 hours with each of them? That's my favorite part of this.
Absolutely. I'm glad that Hawkeye is not on the list because I would then hate to start off with a fight with you, Hal, because it would never be able to be top of my list just because I am boo Hawkeye on so many reasons. And I just will always because he should have been the one to die in Endgame. And then that's not where we're going here. He should have died. And the only reason why he didn't was he was originally going to die at the end of Endgame. And the stunt coordinator, she was like, don't you dare take this away from Natasha. And I just was like, no, let him die. He killed here's the other thing. He killed a lot of people as Ronin, and they were all people of color. At least now in the series, we're starting to see like, oh, some of them are Russian. Like, I think they heard us in social media land of like, oh yeah, he did just kill people of color, Mexicans and Japanese. Like, but I do love, like, I'm excited for the things that are about to come in it. I'm waiting for, I hear Yelena is supposed to pop up from Black Widow, so looking forward to that. And then Kingpin is supposed to show up, so I'm excited for.
Who's playing Kingpin now?
It's the same guy. What's his face?
Vincent
D'Onofrio. Okay. So that TV world, the previous TV world, Marvel television universe, those characters play into the Marvel cinematic universe in as much as they can. I mean, we saw it happen actually. We saw a different version, a non-MCU version of a character show up in WandaVision late in the run.
Yes.
Which was super fun. But all of this is all still one universe, but we're specifically talking about what makes these shows MCU and Jessica Jones and the others not MCU.
So this is back when I was more involved. When I was doing the YouTube show with Marvel, it was it was at the Marvel publishing like place in New York, so it was connected to that. And there was just, who wants some scuttlebutt? You want
scuttlebutt.
And I wonder why I'm never invited back. It takes me like 3 years to get invited back to do it on carpet. I got tea. You want tea? Well, let me tell you what I heard. Okay, I was in the water cooler. I was at the water cooler. So there was just beef between Marvel Television and the MCU. They were headed by two different folks. You had Kevin Feige doing the MCU, and MCU could do whatever it wanted. They could just, all right, we're telling our stories. And then Marvel Television always had to like catch up to whatever they were doing. They're like, we're doing a show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're like, great, S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra. Good luck. And like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. put like 10 episodes in. They're like, this is our whole entire show. And so the deal with like what happened with Netflix is Netflix had in their contract that Marvel could not use any of those characters for 2 years if they ever didn't continue those shows. That's why at like the height of like Daredevil was a fan favorite. Jessica Jones was, doing her thing. They canceled all of the shows. We were like not surprised with Iron Fist. We're like, good, get it out of my face. And then they just got rid of all of them. And now that 2 years has passed, and so now you'll start seeing some of those characters come up. And fun fact, I think I just read that the actress who played Colleen Wing turned down a cameo to be in Shang-Chi because she was filming Matrix 4. So they're early.
Oh, wow.
They're gonna start pulling them in.
Which is great. I mean, the other big rumor, of course, being that Matt Murdock shows up in No Way Home as Spider-Man's attorney.
I saw his forearm. I looked at that
his hand.
Frame.
It's so
that
clear.
Was his hand. Clearly it's a lawyer.
And now that's what's happening with this episode 3 is people are like, that's the Kingpin. I know it. That's his hand. That's his arm. But I mean, if you read the comics, that's the only conclusion you can come to. I want to figure out how we're going to judge these because all 4 of these series are so different from one another.
Fair.
And which is what makes them great is you're not watching, people who complain that superhero movies are all the same haven't watched superhero movies because they're all different genres of film being explored. And with these shows, they're all different as well. So how are we going to judge these when they're so different from one another?
I would posit that one way we can at least break down the judging of them rather than just go show by show and talk about them, which we can obviously do. I think that it might be fun to look at different aspects of each of the show, almost break it into categories, some large categories like the acting on the show.
Oh,
okay.
And some smaller categories like the final credits. All 4 of these shows have very different interesting, cool final credit sequences.
I would say even like how much they're probably impacting the MCU or just a game changer and that could be a game changer of just like, wow, I didn't know television could do that. I didn't know the MCU could do that, or the ramifications from what the show is then creating.
Yeah. Can I throw something out there right now?
Please.
That may be a controversial take. I'll see if you two agree with me. I think there was one series in this 4 that is clearly not a contender.
Ooh, okay.
I'll tell you which one it is, and I will tell you why I think it is. But if the two of you disagree, then we can put it in, and that's fine.
All right,
the one that I would pull out of that group is What If, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I love Captain Carter. I love T'Challa's Star-Lord. There are great episodes in it. It's really smart. It works in all the MCU references. My issue with it in watching it, and I loved reading What If when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But when I was reading What If as a kid, they were drawing from, at that point, 30 years of comic book storylines and history that included characters that Marvel Studios doesn't have the rights to right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it occurred to me, as big as the MCU is, for whatever reason, the What If series made it feel really small. Because they said, well, this is our pool of characters to work with.
Interesting.
As many films as there are, we only have a few major storylines to pull from. So
they did basically with that show. It did. I was like, oh, cool. This is going to be an anthology series. I thought you've got the Watchers, like the Crypt Keeper. This is the cool anthology series. And then late in the season, like just to what you were saying, Hal, about it making the universe seem small, it's like, oh, wow, y'all are already making a What If Avengers. Okay. They just took the first 4 or 5 episodes and made a super group. And then that was the last couple of episodes. So it did, for something that's supposed to be so broadening, it did feel weirdly insular. I don't know if we should necessarily take it out because I do want to talk about it.
Because in the art, I thought the artist, here's the thing. What If was the one when all the series were announced? It was the one that I was just like, oh, I don't care about it. Mm-hmm. And it was captivating. I couldn't wait. Like, it made me feel like a kid of like that Saturday morning cartoon sort of experience. The style, the artistry and style was so, amazing as well. And it was so Twilight Zone-esque. And some of the episodes were so heartbreaking. The first 5 or 6 episodes are heartbreaking. Like, they all lose. Sure. Like, nobody wins, and it's really that Doctor Strange one. I had such chills when he just is like, the ink is falling, he's left alone, and I thought it was just so heartbreaking. And I think a better depiction of one of the best depictions of Black Widow that we've seen in the MCU. I'm like, give me that one. Give me that one.
This is the one from the Avengers All Die episode?
Yeah. It just had that like tough and gruffness that like, listen, I love a Black Widow. I love she got her movie. Scarlett Johansson eventually wore. I love her. I think she was I think Emily Blunt, who was in the running for it, would have been a better Russian, Black Widow, but I appreciate what ScarJo did in the end. And that Captain Carter. And I think it's a great place that they're also like test driving different, like, people really like Captain Carter. Maybe we'll bring them into the, actual movies and also exploring things that you just would never do. They would never do a Marvel Zombies film. And I think it also just sort of helped to push the idea of the multiverse even further, which we had just gotten in Loki. And they were like, all right, now look at all these things that exist.
I agree with you, but here's the other thing is what's great about What If as a comic series is it takes an inflection point in a storyline and turns it on its ear. And it does that with Captain Carter, where that is a moment in history where if that had gone wrong and Steve Rogers had been knocked out or shot or whatever, and she has to get in and take the serum, that's something that plausibly could have happened other than what if Yondu just went to the wrong place and picked up the wrong kid, which is like,
don't you want to see that? You didn't want to see that?
I'm happy I saw it.
Wondered.
Like, T'Challa Star-Lord is amazing though,
it's
because
great.
Suddenly there's no scoundrel to them whatsoever. It's just doing good. And it's great and it's fun. That episode is brilliant.
And him being out there, Thanos never did the snap because that's how
Thanos convinced him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or he convinced Thanos him.
And heartbreaking because they were going to do a spin-off series with T'Challa. Yeah. And it's one of the last times we just get to see Chadwick Boseman just, he knew what that character meant for the community. And I think for me, What If was better than I thought it was going to be and exceeded my expectations. It's not the hill that I will die on. So,
I enjoyed it. I'm the same. There were some hits and misses. I think that T'Challa Star-Lord was a hit. I think that Captain Carter was a hit. And I think that Doctor Strange losing his heart instead of his hands was a hit. But come on, you can't tell me that we're going to put, I'll say it, a masterpiece like WandaVision up against the Scooby-Doo version of Thor trying to clean up after a party. Come on.
His performance was great.
It was great. Look, the performance, it's indulgent fan service, peanut M&Ms.
I will say what's fun is that we can do what if, because I mean, what was fun is that you just, even though Hal's theory is that, you know, there's not enough content to necessarily do a what if, but I think for you just watched the MCU and you've watched it all, it's such fan service because you get to play around. It's like being a kid in a sandbox and getting to play around with all these different toys and characters and just see what else, you know, could have been. Like, I love the spy thriller episode. It was fun. It was a nice sort of palate cleanser.
I'll also say this about it, because I talked before briefly about all of these shows having different cool closing credits. I loved the closing credits for What If. It was just usually sad music because the endings of those episodes were pretty depressing, which is kind of awesome. But it was that with the visual was just the background and concept art for the episode. And that I thought was so cool and so fun.
I give this show a 0% chance of winning.
Yeah.
But I say that having really, really enjoyed it. Like, none of these are bad.
That's, I was going to say, like, I felt like this is kind of a challenging thing to do because they're all really great. And like, kudos to Disney being able to, and Marvel being able to like, just, there's not a dud in the bunch. I've enjoyed all of them. They're just, they're doing great things. Like, who knew that cause we've seen other, you know, superhero shows. We're like, okay, all right, let's another one, but they're doing some really interesting things.
Yeah. I think it would be fun to go series by series and just hold them up to these standards and then see.
Great.
I think it's going to reveal us. Let's start with WandaVision, which manages to be not only a tribute to 5 decades of sitcoms, but also manages to turn Wanda Maximoff into the Scarlet Witch, introduce us to a new character in Agatha Harkness, and also really introduce the concept of Nexus points, which is major to the multiverse.
I think this show is a perfect 10. I think this is the one, in my opinion, this is the gold standard. They came out going, okay, we're the MCU making television. What are we going to say in our first opportunity to make television? This is what they did. They took a character, did a deep dive into her. They gave us a history of television told in hilarious Marvel style. They upended the MCU. And I think it's the best work I've ever seen out of either Paul Bettany or Elizabeth Olsen.
Remember, this is Emmy-nominated WandaVision, which I think is like
23 Emmys.
Changing again, like too, as we continue into the future of what Marvel will continue to do, like superhero shows will be Emmy nominated moving forward, you know, like just a whole different sort of game. And this is the one thing, like this was like a zeitgeist moment. Like everyone was talking about WandaVision. It got people like who were not necessarily big Marvel folks, like everyone was obsessed. It felt like Lost all over again, and you couldn't miss an episode. Everyone was like on the internets watching all these Easter egg videos, trying to figure out what was going on. Mephisto became like, it took over. Like almost everybody who went on a late night talk show was being asked about Mephisto. And like the writers are just thinking like, where did this come from? Like we never, like Mephisto was never going to be there. Where are folks like getting this from? Yeah. It completely took over the zeitgeist. Introduced really, it was also an introduction into Monica Rambeau's character. It was sort of origin story for her as well.
For Photon?
Who is she becoming? Photon?
Photon, yeah. And you just got like, and I think too, here's the thing about what I think is so interesting. And I think it was just the way the pterodactyl, another name for the, you know, everything that people do. And the way this worked, actually, Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be the first series, but they had shut down and because they didn't get finished filming. And so WandaVision came out first. And I think WandaVision was the perfect one to set the tone because it was also so meta because it was like, this is how the MCU does TV. And like you were saying, Mark, they were doing a deep dive into TV and you're kind of like, what the heck is going on? Is sort of, who's the director that David Finch? Is he the Mulholland Drive guy?
David Lynch.
David Lynch.
David Lynch. I knew it was one of the Davids.
Yeah.
It had that sort of like, you know, Twin Peaks sort of, you know, feeling. And it just like, it was just such a great star. 11 out of 10. I'll one up you, Mark, because that's just who I am.
It is. I think it's perfect television. Well, look, I mean, I grew up, things that I love, Marvel movies, television, and satire. So it is a perfect dish. Hal?
Look, I love it. I think a lot of people, it seemed like the main complaint people had about it was the pacing. Cause it felt slow at first, but it's supposed to be. It's a build. Yeah. You're not supposed to know what's going on. It's not fun just to have the answer revealed, even though we're in a time now where that's sort of what we expect. I also get the complaint that people have that the finale all of a sudden just turns into a Marvel movie. But at a certain point, you have to have that action. It has to finish. And I loved Kathryn Hahn. as Agatha Harkness. Yeah. What a great addition to the MCU. What a perfect casting choice. And I'm excited to see House of Harkness. Ooh, and I assume she's going to have to show up at some point in Fantastic Four. Because she's the nanny to Reed and Sue Richards. She's Franklin's nanny.
And would be amazing if they don't know who she is and she's just like, hi, I'm the nanny, and we know, right? Yeah. Can I tell you a horror story of what happened to me watching this and something else? Because I do Marvel stuff, and sometimes I'm hardcore nerd. I'll sometimes stay up till midnight and watch something, or I'll get a private screener for something because I'm in the loop. But
Boo.
I know.
Jealousy. All jealousy.
I got a private screener to Eternals, and there's a watermark on it, and it had my name over the entire thing. Yeah. The entire movie. 3 watermarks over Angelina Jolie's face. And to the point where, when I saw it in theaters, I was like, oh, that's what they were saying in Ancient Sumerian, because I couldn't see it. But so a friend of mine texted me, it was Agatha all along. I had not seen the
No. Oh, that song. Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. You are both big Marvel comic book fans. Mm-hmm. How long into the series before you knew that Agnes was Agatha Harkness?
I was guessing around because I was Easter egging. I was on watching all these YouTube videos. Oh,
so you guys were seeing all the...
I wasn't... Yeah. And that's one thing I will say about all of these shows. If you go on YouTube and watch Easter egg videos, it's bananas how much attention to detail they put into these shows. Sometimes it will even be a license plate will be there was one of the license plates was one of the actual issues from the WandaVision comic book. And
Come on.
That freaking detail is just it's nerds who are making these series and movies, which is just so phenomenal.
Can I this isn't really an Easter egg because it was just a detail in the thing. And I'm jumping back to What If. My favorite running gag in that T'Challa Star-Lord episode is that every time there's a wide shot that Thanos is in, whoever is talking to him is going, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's genocide, dude. That's every time.
He's still selling it.
Yeah. He's still trying to sell his idea. Oh, yeah, but little details like that, and they're everywhere in these shows.
Because it's they're listening to the things that we've said. Because, to your point that you said earlier, in a movie, they can't take the time to have these conversations about genocide or even, the trauma that clearly Wanda has gone through as, a kid. She lost her brother, losing vision, being snapped, coming back, all of that trauma. And this show, also with WandaVision was so amazing is it happened, smack dab in the Panini press.
Yes.
For it. But it's we all kind of needed it. We were all going through, it was sort of therapeutic going through that trauma and that loss and that experience through this MCU show.
I also love my biggest geek out moment was seeing the all white rebooted Vision, who was the Vision that I probably read the most because I would read a lot of West Coast Avengers as a kid. And so that storyline of him coming back and Wanda trying to fill him in on their relationship, to have him introduced the way they did it, and the entire Ship of Theseus scene. I
had just written down Ship of Theseus scene is answers so many questions for so many Marvel things.
Yeah, it's a really, really good series, and it's got huge implications moving forward.
And before we jump off of this, I also, because I mentioned the acting before, and I do think that in this show, we got a chance to see, not only did we see Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen play in so many different styles. These are expert actors playing their characters' truths in multiple different styles and also completely coming through truthfully in every moment, right down to the end of the season when, of course, a confessional sitcom happens near the end when Wanda is starting to realize what she's done and really, really deal with the grief of this. I spent the last couple of episodes, I'm not going to lie, just bawling through this show. I love this show. We have to take a break. I know Ken he's direct messaging me.
Yes.
We have to take a break. We're going to talk about some of the other great shows on the Maximum Fun Network. We will be right back.
Well, Manolo, we have a show to promote. It's called Dr. Game Show.
It's a family-friendly podcast where listeners submit games and we play them with callers from around the world.
Oh, sounds good. New episodes happen every other Wednesday on MaximumFun.org.
It's a fast and loose oasis of absurd innocence and naivete.
Are you writing a poem?
No, and just saying things from my memory. And it's a nice break from reality. Are we allowed to say that?
I don't know. It sounds bad.
It comes with a 100% happiness guarantee.
It does not. Come for the games and stay for the chaos.
I'm going first. It's me, Jackie Cation.
Man, she's always this bossy. Hi, I'm Lori Kilmartin. We're a bunch of stand-up comics, and we've been doing comedy like 60 years total, both of us, but we look amazing. And
working out. We drop every Monday on Max Fun, and it's called The Jackie Laurie Show, and you could listen to it and learn about comedy and learn about anger management and all the things.
And Jackie is married but childless, and I'm unmarried but childful. So together we make one complete woman.
Is that just what that one's gonna end?
Yeah. And we try to make Kyle laugh just like that and say, oh my God, every episode.
It's a good job. The Jackie and Laurie Show, Mondays, only on Maximum Fun.
Okay, let's get back in this.
Wait, before we move on from WandaVision, maybe we could do an entire episode about
Evan
WandaVision.
Peters.
I know.
Evan Peters. Okay,
won the Emmy.
It was such a mind blowing moment. Well, first of all, that man is so talented. The whole cast, so talented.
Great.
But when he shows up, and it was just sort of this, like, we're like, oh my gosh, mutants are here. It's X-Men. They're pulling it in, and it was more just they were just like a winking and nudging. But Marvel does it a lot. They'll sort of like, remember, they're like, it's the Mandarin. We're like, this can't be the Mandarin. And it wasn't, but the Mandarin came, the actual Mandarin came later. So they're aware. They're so smart the way that they do it. They broke the internet. They broke us. We thought mutants were here, and they're like,
so good.
Not yet.
So let's go from something wild and fantastical to something a lot more grounded and exploring more societal issues than personal grief issues. And that's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Oh man. Oh man. This show's so, can't bleep this. This show's so good. It's so good. The action is great.
You're a big Captain America.
I love Captain America.
Those particular movies I know are right up your alley.
I love Anthony Mackie as Falcon.
He's brilliant.
He's so great.
Black Falcon.
To explore, yes, Black Falcon.
I love that. Hey, it's Black Falcon. What are you, Black Kid?
Because that's what they called him in the comics. He was Black Falcon originally. But to explore what it means to him to take on the mantle of Captain America, to be handed that shield, not only because he's not Steve Rogers, but
he's black.
But he's black. Yeah. And just the exploration of the original Black super soldier.
Oh yeah.
Like the trauma that Bucky's going through and his road to redemption, Zemo's return, just everything in it. It explores a different level of a lot of characters we haven't seen in a while. Like, where's Sharon Carter? What's she been up to? Did she
potentially evil Sharon Carter?
Nothing good.
Well, she's the power broker.
That's like, so crazy.
Very busy.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting, like this show acknowledge that race exists in the MCU. Sometimes in these shows, these movies, it's sort of like, oh, that's a black person, but we don't talk about it, But this show just straight up was like, what's his experience? And like how, you're saying, like, what does it mean for a black man to wear the shield? They just handed it to him. And now when you go back and you watch Endgame and he gets handed that shield, that moment is so different because he's like, thanks, but oh man, there's a lot to hold on to this. There's so many, it's one of those moments where I'm like, I love it when sci-fi or comic books, and this is what the good comics books do, is they talk about real things. What he couldn't get a loan, and that's very real. For sometimes black folks can't get a loan. He's getting stopped on the street because they see him that he's black and what that means. There just was so many, I was like, oh, folks are about to learn about what it means to be black in America. And this show, I will tell you this. I'm gonna confide in you because you're my boys. And I think I was watching at 1 a.m. because, sometimes I like to get that midnight watching on a Thursday morning. Night.
Sure.
The very last episode, and I'm gonna get emotional, talking about this. The very last episode, and they do the credits, and it changes from Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And I just started crying.
Sure.
I didn't realize how much I needed that, or just that idea to get to see it. And when we talk about Black Panther, it's powerful, but at the same time, it's sort of like other. He's like, he's Africa. He's from Africa. It's a different country. This is a Black American, right?
Yeah.
And it's so, and navigating being a hero, protecting this country that doesn't always love him back. And two, like, what Captain America does really well is sometimes like doesn't always have the, fight, but gives a powerful speech sometimes and a strong message. So I thought this was a very powerful show and a game changer too.
Yeah, to be Captain America is more than just putting on the outfit and wielding the shield or even being strong or able to fight. It's the embodiment of an ideal America or / American. So Captain America, the Steve Rogers version, was what we could be if we aspired to do what we felt was right all the time, to stand up for everybody. And for Sam Wilson, it's very much the same thing, but a reflection of actual America that Steve Rogers never could be because he was a white dude who was born at the turn of the century. There's just no way he could understand that, even though for him, he would be like, he wouldn't judge anybody any differently, but that's not the same as the speech that he gives makes me cry also. Just that, like, to have that understanding, it's amazing. And he brings something completely different, and it's so great. And you root for him because he deserves it.
And he also doesn't have any superhero powers, too. And he still does all these amazing things. He's just a regular guy. Okay, Mark, what does your cold heart say? I can just say.
No, I don't.
I like when the white people are Captain America.
No, how dare you? No, I was actually going to say, as a person who is not a huge comic book reader, but an avid MCU fan, and I think there are a lot of us, it feels like that at the certain moment that we are in right now, regardless of what's going on in the comic books, and well, technically then this person has been it for a while and the mantle has been carried by so-and-so. Nationally, as a culture, our current Captain America is black.
Yeah.
Which is like our America's official Captain America right now. There's always been a Captain America since the 40s that America had. It's like if everybody, it was like on the front page of the paper, Santa's black. This is Captain America's black. And that's what it is, right? And I think that is a huge thing. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms before, but yeah, I think it's great and huge.
Kids growing up, me growing up, I think Blade was the only one. We just didn't have it. They made up one. There was like Damon Wayans did, he was like Blank Man.
Blank Man,
I don't know. Yeah. Meteor Man was another one. They had to like make up their own ones. So they just They didn't exist. I think also too, what this show brings up a point of, we get to see what if Thanos was right. When the Flag Smashers are very interesting in the very beginning because there was no borders. And there was another movie I was watching recently. Oh, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a movie that just came out recently. I don't know. We're talking about Eternals or something, but perhaps Thanos was right because maybe he was trying to prevent something. And it just kind of, it puts things into different perspective.
Yeah.
They better do that because otherwise his plan was still genocide. But if he was doing
it's still genocide, dude.
But if he was doing it to prevent something that maybe he knew was going to happen, then maybe.
It is a great exploration of the post-blip world where everyone's come back and people are displaced. Like there are real things that happen as a result of that. There are a couple things I want to shout out from the series. One is the appearance, what was technically the second appearance because she's at the end of Black Widow, but became the first appearance of Madame Hydra.
Oh, yeah.
Played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Brilliant. Val.
So great. Yes.
Val.
She's great.
Yeah.
We all love Baron Zemo dancing.
Look, here's Zemo. I have a little bit of beef with on this because this turned Zemo, who was a terrifying villain of the MCU, into Joe Pesci from the Lethal Weapon movies.
He had a lot going on though, because he was still so on his own trauma, and now he went to prison. Now he's back to who he usually is. It's just this fun Baron guy.
Yeah. All right.
Hijinks and dances.
And the pain is still there.
The dancing is great.
Yeah. And then I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan. And a huge Goldie Hawn fan. So it's only natural that I would enjoy their son Wyatt's work. And
who has a super punchable face. Playing a super punchable role. U.S. agent is such a weird kind of character. And
I just want to punch him.
Yeah, he's so punchable, but he's so good at punchable.
The way that they play him, everything down to how he takes the super soldier serum. It also deals with the idea of how difficult it is to take up the mantle of Captain America. I love the portrayal.
White privilege. He's like, it's for me too.
Yeah.
But he also is not as, even though he is not a good guy, he's also not necessarily a bad guy. Sure. So to watch him play in that gray area and create a character that is, you can see he's a victim of his PTSD.
Yeah.
That's his greatest enemy that haunts him. So
that whole show is gray area.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's one thing that it does really well is is villain versus like good guy versus bad guy gray area.
Well, I think they're doing, something because a lot of people were like, oh, Marvel's villains are all paint by numbers. And I think we're getting to more of a Killmonger area of antagonists. Mm-hmm. I would say like everything, even all the movies so far in phase 4, everybody who's the antagonist, I can see where they're coming from. And so I think the same thing with like the MCU series. You mentioned the snap, and I know we've already moved on from WandaVision, but I had to go back. The moment when Monica Rambeau gets snapped,
brilliant.
Go back. It's so, oh my gosh, when she comes back, because we've only seen it for jokes in Spider-Man. It was just like, oh, the band came back in the middle of like a basketball game. But the trauma of coming back and what that moment would be like, it was like, oh, wow, this is wild.
Yeah.
You know,
we can keep going back to WandaVision. That's okay.
Well, no, you mentioned villains with more depth. So what villain has more depth than Loki?
Nice segue.
We last saw escaping using the Tesseract in Endgame when they go back to 2012 New York. And it turns out he is taken into custody by the TVA in the series Loki, which is getting a season 2. And not to tip my hand, would be my pick at this point for the best Marvel Disney Plus series.
Okay.
Interesting.
Hand tipping. Okay. All right.
I'll tell you why.
Please do.
I think much like the other series, great performances. It's great to see Tom Hiddleston fill out even more dimensions of who Loki is, because he's much more vulnerable. He's completely vulnerable the entire series because he has almost everything that makes him who he is taken away. Mm-hmm. And also he has to realize he's not the only Loki, which somehow makes him less special. Like there's another Loki who's better at being Loki than him why can't I remember her name? Sophie? No.
Sophie, Lady Loki,
Sylvie.
Enchantress.
Lady Loki,
She's
Sylvie,
kind of
yes.
All these things.
Yeah.
But yes.
Honestly.
They kept being like, you're enchanting things. It's also in the comics. Sorry, in the comics, she's also sometimes the Enchantress.
Yes.
They're like, you're enchanting things. I'm like, I see what y'all doing.
Exactly, yeah. She's basically Enchantress. I love Owen Wilson as Mobius.
Owen Wilson is perfectly underplaying that whole thing.
But the highlight of the whole thing for me is getting a sneak peek at Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Can I also tell you a horror story?
Yeah.
Please.
What did somebody else also text me as I'm in the gym? They're like, wow, can't believe Jonathan Majors. And I already know that Jonathan Majors is going to be playing Kang, but I'm thinking I'm not going to see him until Quantumanium.
Yeah, of course.
I have not watched it. And it's Wednesday at like 5 p.m. The show comes out on Wednesday. Someone texts me. They're like, yeah, I can't believe like, Jonathan Majors. Wow. Didn't see that coming. I'm like, how dare you? Cause I was never thinking, again, the Easter eggs are like, oh, you know, you could see King Towers in, when they're in the place where they all get banished to. There was little Easter eggs, but I was like, there's no way they're going to bring Jonathan Majors into this Disney Plus series. They're not going to bring a major Thanos-like villain, but it does just show the epicness of like these Disney Plus series. They're not messing around.
No.
Like, they're all connected. They're all important. You cannot miss a beat on one. So someone spoiled that for me that Kang was. I got to get new friends.
You need to just put your phone into a wood chipper until just get it.
Or just watch anything the second it comes out.
Yeah.
I try. It's so offensive because I'm so big at not spoiling for things for other people. When people don't give me that same respect, and like not even like I always check in. Here's a PSA: you always check in with somebody. You say, "Have you seen X?" and you wait for their reply. Then you can start chatting. You don't just come in guns blazing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it was Agatha all along.
Yeah, there's a protocol. I agree. The protocol's not being followed. It's not your fault that things are being spoiled for you. I'm just saying. You need to cut those people out of your life. They're no good for you.
That's true.
I'll also say in terms of impact on the MCU, Loki, who seems to like create a lot of, he makes the Avengers by his action. He's always creating Coulson. Trouble. So why wouldn't he be the reason why the multiverse gets loose?
Yeah.
Yes, it's Sylvie, but it's them together.
But the multiverse, like I was texting a friend, cause after this first Spider-Man trailer came out, I have not seen the other ones cause I hear they're just spoil city. So I'm just like burying myself into a cave right now. But you can kind of tell that looks like Doctor Strange's like, ugh, accidentally created the multiverse. It feels like everybody has a hand and like shenanigans are just happening.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Falcon or Captain America Winter Soldier just fixing a boat. Like everybody else is just in chaos. And they're just like, I'm like, these guys are not ready for what's about to come. Everybody else is messing with the multiverse and just fixing a boat.
So the others are the big three. They're not the big three. They're just people.
They're just hanging out.
I just want to say one more thing about specifically, I just want to echo Jonathan Majors in this because when we first started, I mentioned like different categories that we could look them in. I was specifically thinking Elizabeth Olsen in a full series versus the tour de force of Jonathan Majors doing maybe the best all-time version of the villain monologue, rivaling Moriarty in the Sherlock series, but I think even better than that.
And the funny thing is that version of that character is not a villain.
Yes, he's
he's a good guy. He's the one who survives. He's keeping Kang at bay.
That's what's so creepy about it. You watch this and you're kind of already creeped out by him, and you're just like, it's gonna get so much worse. And it's so exciting to get we're going to see Jonathan Majors is just going to take over everyone's life because we're going to get to see him doing so many different versions of this character. And it's just going to be really exciting. It's just going to be really exciting to see.
Yeah. I think that's the most inspired. I did not know him from anything else. I had never seen Lovecraft Country. I'd never seen.
Country.
No, I need to see it.
So God, he's so good.
Yeah.
But as soon as he came on the screen, I was like,
Beale Street could talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's just, you watch him and you're like, oh, he's the best actor working right now. And you have to have a moment where, I mean, the moment in that scene where a person who knows everything suddenly knows nothing. And you have to get an actor that can believably convey that.
Yeah.
And you get this guy and he crushes it. I can't wait to see the 10 different versions of the character that are coming up. That said, I did love the series. I love the 1970s style that the TVA is stuck in. I think it's all cool. Tara Strong, I think, is great as Miss Minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
But I think none of these can hold a candle to WandaVision as a feat of television.
Well, and the other thing I wrote a note down. I have one thing that's kind of boo for me with Loki, and maybe it's I think maybe because now I have something else. So I have a boo. They kind of, Marvel, Disney, they do a lot of queer baiting. He's like, yeah, I was with the guy once or what. And so we're so salivating for more like queer content and characters that we're just like drooling over this. Yeah. Meanwhile, we get to Eternals and we get full on married gay ass Fastos. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, we can really just go here. Okay. Yeah. I don't need that like anymore. So that's like one kind of like looking back at it now. At first I was like, woo. And now I'm like, I need to see him locking lips with the dude.
Yeah. Give him a boyfriend in season 2. He's already dating himself.
Oh, yes.
That's a weird thing about it too. Of course, Loki can only date himself.
And they also created Kang. They also let Kang loose. Not only did they unleash the really let it loose, but
yes. But wild to see when you start seeing all those timelines and strands going, you're just like, it's just like, what a mess that Endgame really, you even at the end of the Endgame, you're just like, nah, this is not gonna go well. Like, you're like, there's no way they wrap this up. Yeah. And, they didn't.
I do love how the way they show branching realities looks exactly the same as what the Ancient One shows Bruce Banner in Endgame. Like exactly what it looks like. You take it out, here's a branching reality.
That visual of them arriving at the One Who Remains' library or whatever that is.
Castle,
where it's just the swirling ring of time before the branches start going off. I thought at the time, I was like, what a cool way to visualize the multiverse for the beginning of the multiverse. And for good measure, let's just get Jonathan Majors to explain how a multiverse works to you. The show had a lot of great stuff going for it. I don't think it was the masterpiece that WandaVision was. I think it is a solid silver medalist for me.
Interesting.
And I think too, for me, Loki again didn't capture the zeitgeist where it was like, again, people like everyone was talking about WandaVision. It was just like, it just perforated everything everyone was talking about. I will say this though about Loki and Kang in general is I have a theory. That this phase 4, a lot of the themes are going to be about love. A lot of the antagonists that I've been seeing so far, or we've been seeing so far, the driving force has been like love. And so my theory is, Renslayer, cause in the comics, Renslayer and Kang have they have a thing. And so, yes. And so my theory is that's why he made her a variant, was to have her as a time variant. Anyways, I think that you've not seen the last of her. You don't just cast Gugu Magbufa. I can't say her last name and I'm embarrassed for myself, but you don't cast Gugu, who is in Beyond the Lights. You don't cast her for nothing. So that is my theory, is that I think Kang is going to be doing things for love, because originally in the comics, Thanos is snapping his fingers for death, which thought was going to be Hela. They kept being like, she's the goddess of death. And I was like, oh, he's doing it for her. And then he's like, nope, just need to clean up the ozone layer. But
hey, at least we didn't get gross, weird looking Nebula from that run.
Yeah.
We got a cool, exciting Karen Gillan Nebula.
So
yes, this is true.
Mark, you're in favor of WandaVision. I put in my vote for Loki. James, where are you right now?
Oh, I mean, honestly, when you said where we're doing this, I'm like, well, this is going to be the easiest decision in the world, mainly because they're all really great and really amazing. But there's one of them is just, it was a game changer. It was like, oh, this is what Disney Plus can do. This is what these series do. It took over the zeitgeist. Performance is tour de force. Getting to play these different decades. It's WandaVision, hands down. It changed the game.
I have one question for you, but I'm happy with that. I love all of these series. You can't pick wrong. Yeah. Do you think the fact that the pancetta was in full force at that time, and people were at home, do you think that is a reason why like some of the other series came out as things were opening up a bit more? Maybe people were going out, so they weren't like, I'm stuck at home. When is the next blank coming out? And also it will benefit from being the first because it was the first. And I'm just asking that. I'm fine with it. I don't even want to change the decision, but I just, as a point of conversation, the conditions were there for it to be appointment television, but I think it deserved to be because of the way it was a slow roll that nothing else really was. It ended, it just was kept peeling layers off of the onion.
I think the Ponda replay absolutely, did help into it having its moment, but I think everything happened in this timeline, in this variant timeline, like everything happened for a reason. Cause again, we think back, Falcon Winter Soldier was supposed to come out first. WandaVision was supposed to directly lead into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Like it was just wild. Like, so we were already supposed to be in the Multiverse of Madness. That was already supposed to
I think we already are in the Multiverse of Madness, and that's why all this is happening.
Right. I just had a flashback of Ken, who made me watch Cats on a different show. Sorry, calling that out. He made me watch Cats, and we believe that Cats is what caused the Ponderosa. It was one of the last movies to come out, and then the Ponderosa hit.
Well, then there you go. People of the world, we've been dealing with this Pantalone for almost 2 full years. And after year one and just starving, just crawling through a desert bereft of new Marvel content, we were gifted with a series that is as much a great execution of different styles of sitcoms as it is a tribute to them. It is an exploration of grief with great performances that range from comedic to dramatic. It gives us the return of Darcy as a full-on scientist. She's no longer an intern. And Jimmy Woo, who now knows the card trick he was trying to learn in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Easter eggs.
So these great returning characters. We get the rebooted Vision, and he's somewhere. Who knows where he is? Agatha trapped in her own mind. And we finally get to see Wanda Maximoff become the Scarlet Witch in the best Marvel series on Disney Plus, WandaVision.
Yes.
WandaVision.
Oh, and the openings credit sequences.
Oh my God.
Come on.
Well, you have
it's so
one
good.
of the greatest songwriting teams in history.
That's true.
Writing all your music.
It hit all the nostalgia heartstrings, and I think I think it just came timing of release of things does matter, and I think it just hit at just the right time.
Yeah.
Well,
by the way, I missed out on what's the best Marvel Disney Plus series. It was WandaVision all along.
The kids at home are not surprised. They saw this coming. They were like,
there you go.
You're not nasty.
Now it's asked and answered.
Plot twist. Can I tell them that they should come listen to Minority Corner? Because
please tell them being here. Remind them about Minority Corner, which they should already be listening to.
You're probably already listening to. You're like, James, old hat, I'm already subscribed. Or maybe something happened. Nana got into your phone. You accidentally unsubscribed because she's figuring it out. But come on over to Minority Corner. We've been around for 6 years, 329 episodes. Yeah, I had a podcast before Brene Brown, Michelle Obama, before it was, one of their moms and these things. Yeah. But come on over. We do a deep dive into news, pop culture, history, politics, all kinds of nerdy stuff similar to this, but all through an intersectional lens. And we have a lot of fun. You're going to learn, you're going to laugh, you're going to play. It's a great old time. And it's right here on the Maximum Fun Network. So, we fam.
Thank you for coming on the show and joining us today. You are always so much fun. We love you. You're a blast to be here, and we can't thank you enough. But like these gentlemen said, this topic is closed, but there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets, or
email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or go to facebook.com/groups/We Got This Podcast. Talk about your favorite Marvel moments that you've seen on Disney Plus, because there's no wrong answer. We can love things and celebrate the things that we love. That's what this is about. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kilman, and QA engineer Jen Alba, all of whom we love.
Yes, we love them. And we also love our musicians and thank them, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And we love you. And we thank you, the people of the world, for giving us a chance to sit down, not just now, but through the entire pan-seared ahi tuna over ginger rice. And giving us a chance to, sorry, that threw me off for a second. Then I realized I had to do that. And thank you for giving us a chance to sit down and talk about the things that we love and share in them and the catharsis of them and the joy of them. And may there be many more things that we get to talk about and love on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
And for Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. Don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Audience supported.